All right, good morning. It's another beautiful morning up north. It's Wednesday. It's February 25th. I'm Pat Kreitlow up here on Lake Wissota. Nice to have you along. If you're new to the live stream, it's not a full-blown radio show. It's not quite a podcast. Maybe that ought to be the name of it, not quite a podcast. It's a place just to talk live with people for the stories that I'm working on for Up North News. And today my guest is James Lyerly, president of the Green Bay School Board, one of the many plaintiffs in a new lawsuit asking courts to declare that the current antiquated, broken down, abused, and dysfunctional way that schools are funded in Wisconsin is so bad it's unconstitutional. We will follow that interview with today's history lesson and some headlines. First, a reminder that tomorrow my guest is State Senator Kelda Roys, a candidate for governor. We will not have a program on Friday. Then next week on Monday, we start with Julian Emerson to talk about his work expanding affordable housing options in the Chippewa Valley. That's followed on Tuesday by his lovely bride, Representative Jody Emerson, on the legislative session that's kind of sort of done, except for the possible tax package that is supposed to help provide some surplus funds to our beat up school system. Seems like a good time to remind you that this is Public Schools Week. I've put a link in the comments to what the Wisconsin Public Education Network is doing for Public Schools Week. It is, as I mentioned, not too late to write your legislator to talk about tax relief and school relief as well. Something's got to get done in the short term to deal with this broken down system, and then something's got to get done in the long term to replace this broken down system. And that takes us to the lawsuit filed yesterday by school districts, educators, parents, taxpayers, and advocacy groups. Now, let me get this banner out of the way for a second and say, look at this list. These are the plaintiffs in a new lawsuit seeking to have the current school funding system in Wisconsin declared broken to the point of being unconstitutional. There are 19 plaintiffs. That seems like a lot, but it is only a tiny sliver of the number of people in our state who have had enough of this dysfunction. Not just teachers, but parents and taxpayers and more. The list includes the Green Bay School District, and James Lyerly is president of the Green Bay School Board. James, good morning. Thank you for being here. How are you?
Good, Pat. Nice to be here.
Tell me, basically, what are the plaintiffs seeking and why are you seeking it?
Well, I don't think I can do better than you did. What we're doing is this lawsuit is a constitutional challenge against the school funding system, right? It is antiquated. And if you actually go out, and I know several news media outlets have actually put the complaint on their site, it reads like a history lesson, trying to educate how we got where we are now. And when we talk about antiquated, Green Bay specifically is locked into a per student spend that was set in 1993. And there has never been a reassessment of our needs or physical constraints since then. We are locked in at the lowest reimbursement rate, and we've stayed there. So when we look at the last 17 years since basically Act 10, we have advocated. We have done a lot of legislative engagement. We have written editorial letters. We have done everything that we thought we should do to compel action on this broken system. Yet out of Madison, there's just been 17 years of inaction. And let me define inaction. Every year since they decoupled what we can spend on a student from the cost of living, they've never met cost of living. So we're in a situation now of 17 years of an accumulated underfunding, and we're in crisis mode. The legislature basically said, we will dictate and we will give you little updates and increases in finance. And if you need more, on which if you're not meeting the cost of living, you need more, you have to go to the local taxpayers and get it. So in Green Bay, I'm very, very appreciative and proud of our community. We passed an operational referendum in 2017, along with a capital referendum in 2017, another capital referendum in 22, and another capital referendum in 24. Most of that capital referendum revenue went into deferred maintenance because the amount that we get in equalized aid and the amount that we can spend and levy does not match need. And so over the years, an accumulation of deferred maintenance turns into, when we had an audit done of all of our facilities, $300-400 million over the next 20 years. So we have to keep going back to our community, and that's not the way the system was designed to work.
James, there have been attempts before to get the current funding system tossed out. The best known case is from 2000, Vincent v. Voigt.
Correct.
It ended with the conservative majority on the state Supreme Court saying that what existed at the time qualifies as adequate for funding education in Wisconsin. What has changed in the past 26 years? I know you mentioned keeping up with inflation is the big one, but there's certainly been that expansion of the voucher program and more.
Correct. So when we look back at that case, and actually one of the litigators on our team was a party to that case, we recognize that bad facts turn into bad law, right? And so the accumulation of facts, observable deficiencies in the funding systems over the last 17 years has created a new set of facts that we can take to the court and prove that the system is broken.
We're talking to James Lyerly here about the school funding system and the lawsuit that seeks to have it declared unconstitutional. Your biography describes you as the chief product and technology officer for a Wisconsin-based company with many years of experience leading product development teams, solving complex problems, and managing large budgets and innovation programs. Have you been motivated enough to come up with an innovative product that would solve the complex problem of paying for schools in Wisconsin? In other words, James, we all recognize the current system is bad. Are you among those who thinks you can actually build a better mousetrap, or is that somebody else's job?
So, Pat, it's interesting that you read my bio and used it on the air. I appreciate that. But one, I know my lane, right? What I do and the industry that I work in has a very different set of problems than the education system. So I recognize that. But Pat, we don't have to be innovative, right? Wisconsin is the only state that has this odd, broken finance system. There are many models around the nation that would be suitable and we could use to define a new way of doing this. Now, the lawsuit and the declarative judgment that we're seeking, obviously we can't legislate, right? But we want to compel action and hopefully be able to insert some of those models and ideas into a new system.
Are you and the other plaintiffs going to try to get the state Supreme Court to take original jurisdiction over the case in order to get a speedy verdict from the liberal majority justices? Or is this a case that is going to methodically work its way through the circuit and appeals courts over the next however many months or years it might take?
So I am not an attorney. And I am not in the position to speak to this. What I have been told is they are purposely trying to go through the process, through the court systems and through the appeals process, so it's defensible.
Is this a case that can be resolved without being joined at the hip with the legal challenge to the voucher schools, the so-called choice program? In other words, is a new school funding system possible with the choice programs that already exist? Is that a matter for, again, either the courts or legislators to determine?
That's for the legislature to determine. Pat, you know, the complaint argues that currently it's not an equitable, uniform system, right? How that is resolved is up to the legislature.
And then finally, you have to deal with the current system as it exists, and at least you're doing something to make costs more transparent by breaking out the voucher price tag as a separate item on property tax bills. You guys are trailblazers for that in the state. Why was it important to do that?
Because government is all about accountability, right? And there was a challenge to that initiative where they would say, wait, you know, money outflows from the district to De Pere and other districts when people open and roll out. How is the voucher program any different? And my argument was transparency, right? I can line by line download the budget book for Green Bay. I can see the budget book for all of the other public institutions. I know what the level of accountability is for all those institutions, and accountability breaks down. So I thought that, the the board back in 22, 23, when we actually passed the initial resolution, wanted to make sure that we provided the taxpayers enough information for them to make informed decisions. And bundling that transfer to voucher schools inside of the Green Bay Area Public School District's levy was not allowing them to make informed decisions. It bloated our levy, and they ultimately were challenging us in the usage of that money.
James, anything I didn't cover? Any other points you want to make about the lawsuit and what you'd like to see happen next?
You know, ultimately, you're right. This is a long process. This is not going to address a 26, 27 shortfall. This is not going to probably address the next year's shortfall. So there's still a lot of work that we need to do. Again, we just want to make sure that our community knows that we're not just playing along, that we are out there fighting on behalf of the local taxpayer to rebalance the obligation. Original documents from the state constitutional assembly indicate that it should be 2-to-1 public state funding to local funding, and that's not how it is right now.
No, it's not. And I think it's important that you raise that point. This is not just about something for teachers or kids. This really is seeking reform for the taxpayers of the state as well, who really can't tell which way is up with this current system.
Totally agree, Pat.
James Lyerly is president of the Green Bay Board of Education. The Green Bay School District is one of the plaintiffs in this lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the current school funding system. James, thank you very much for your time. We learned a lot and appreciate you so much. Have a great day.
Appreciate you too, Pat.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's check some headlines here real quick. And really the only headline to cover is last night's State of the Union. And this is one of those times where, again, I can be thankful. I missed the radio show, but on the radio show, I couldn't react to the State of the Union with just simply saying, yikes, what a load of bullshit. That's all you can say. I mean, everything that spewed out of the mouth of the guy acting as president of the United States was a bad reality game show host. There was nothing new, nothing substantive. The stuff that was, said to be somewhat new was not. I mean, for example, J.D. Vance is going to be in charge of fraud. I mean, yeah, he got to have his racist, diatribe against Somali Americans, which of course doesn't tell the full story at all about the fraud cases in Minnesota, but that's okay. Never let, the truth get in the way of a good story. And so if J.D. Vance is really going to take on fraud, I guess much like Elon Musk, I hope that they start with the guy in the Oval Office first when you're talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. And if you're not, well, then you're just making stuff up. And that's all that we really saw yesterday. J.D. Vance, the vice president, is coming to Wisconsin tomorrow to campaign on behalf of Derek Van Orden. Coming up later this evening, Colorado Congressman and Wisconsin native Jason Crow will be in Eau Claire tonight campaigning against Derek Van Orden. And there is a chance that by now on social media, you have seen the video of Derek Van Orden trying to shake Donald Trump's hand as he worked his way down the aisle at the start of the State of the Union address. It did not go well. He got completely ignored, and I'm hoping to find time later today to set that to the music from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Anyway, let me pause here, take a sip of coffee, and then we'll have today's history lesson and a little bit more. Another beautiful morning up north. I'm Pat Kreitlow. All right, well, today's history lesson is short and sweet. Birthdays include Chelsea Handler is 51 today. Rashida Jones is 50, funny actress, daughter of Quincy Jones. And then Kash Patel is either 46 today or 12, based on the video we saw from the men's hockey team locker room. Again, just embarrassing stuff. One celestial birthday of note, George Harrison from the Beatles, born this day in 1943, passed away in 2001. I've got links to 2 music videos because, what fun's doing a morning thing like this if you can't afterwards click on those links and watch some videos. On this day in 1984, Van Halen hit the top of the charts with Jump. It was the #1 song for 5 weeks. And then the next year, 1985, the British duo Tears for Fears released their album Songs from the Big Chair, featuring the hits Shout and Everybody Wants to Rule the World. On this day in 1991, remember the Warsaw Pact? Remember there was NATO on the one side and the Warsaw Pact with the Soviet Union and its satellite nations on the other? It was on this day in 1991 that the Warsaw Pact formally disbanded with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Of its 8 member states, 7 of them ended up joining NATO. And now it's Trump and Putin who are working so hard to break up NATO and I guess maybe restore the Warsaw Pact, which has been gone now for these past 35 years. Our question of the week from our Sunday newsletter: do you think Wisconsin politics will get better with Tony Evers and Robin Voss exiting the stage? Will it be the same? Will it actually get worse with some new leadership? Sign up for our newsletter at upnorthnewswi.com and let us know what you think. We also have our Do Something calendar of events to get you up off the couch and get motivated to do some things. I mentioned it was Public Education Week in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Public Education Network will have a virtual seminar called Power of Student Action tomorrow evening at 6:30. It's a student-led conversation with Wisconsin Student Action, the Kentucky Student Voice Team, and Students Engaged to Advance Texas, talking about how students across the country are fighting back against underfunding, privatization, and other attacks on our public schools. Again, that's tomorrow evening. Thursday evening, the Dunn County Democrats have Bring a Buddy Trivia Night in Menominee at 6 p.m. There's certainly other social events that are happening as well. Just head over to the Do Something calendar at upnorthnewswi.com to learn more. All right, that's going to do it here. My thanks to James Lyerly for telling us more about the school funding lawsuit that just got filed yesterday. And then tomorrow, we will talk to State Senator Kelda Royce, candidate for governor here in the state of Wisconsin. That was hot, wasn't it? I'm Pat Kreitlow. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow for another beautiful morning up north.